Okay, we're reminding ourselves of what we're doing here. Our motivation. Come listen to these, come do this meditation, purify the mind. Because we want to develop our qualities, become an enlightened being, for the sake of sentient beings. That's our long-term goal. So just for those who've arrived today, some people have arrived today, haven't you? Yeah. So we'll spend 5-10 minutes before we do the practice, just reminding of the 4 opponent powers. We're clear what we're doing, okay? Then we'll do the practice. So we have 4 R's. I remember my friend Gloria in Adelaide mentioned, maybe she made it up, I'm not sure. The 4 R's is a good way to remember these 4 psychological steps that is the practice of changing the mind, purifying the mind, restraining the negative karmas we've planted in the past and stopping them from ripening. And these practical psychological steps, just remember. The first is regret, which is like acknowledging I did this and said that have harmed sentient beings. An action that harms a sentient being is the definition of a negative action. But the key reason Buddha says don't do it is because it will harm me. Because the fundamental principle of karma, the law that runs the universe for the Buddha, whatever the mind does, and therefore whatever the body and speech do to carry out the mind's wishes, is a karma, an action, an intentional action that leaves a seed in the mind that will necessarily ripen in the future as other happiness or suffering. If the motivation and action are virtuous, the result is happiness. If the motivation and action is negative, the result is suffering. It's not a complicated concept. So given that we don't want suffering and do want happiness, then our first step is to purify the negative seeds before they ripen, stop them from ripening, grab them, get them before they ripen. That's purification. So the first step has to be to acknowledge that I've done negative actions. Very simple. And I have to regret them. Not guilt, but out of self-respect. Like eating poison. Oh my God, what an idiot, I ate poison. Quick, what can I do about it? Oh my gosh, I've killed, lied, stolen, bad-mouthed, this, that, this life and countless past lives, Buddha says. All these millions of imprints in the mind, seeds in the mind, waiting to ripen as my suffering. And I do not want more suffering. That's a fact. So therefore regret's based on that. I don't want suffering. So we happily regret anything I've ever done to harm sentient beings, my body and speech. And we'll go through as we do in the first, when we do the practice, we'll go through the 10 non-virtues, a sort of checklist of 10 don'ts, 10 non-virtuous actions that Buddha talks about. 3 of the body, 4 of the speech, and then 3 of the mind. And after regretting, then we think, well, whom can I turn to? Where's the doctor? So reliance is the second step. We rely upon the Buddha in this case. He's our doctor. And we're going to visualize Vajrasattva, a particular aspect of Buddha in the Bodhisattva path, especially for purification. And then we have the second part of reliance, is where we now think about those we have harmed and have compassion for them. So in this sense, we rely, like we talked before, we rely upon suffering sentient beings. We need to think of and see and hear about suffering sentient beings in order to get compassion. In that sense, we rely upon them. And then, of course, compassion for those who harmed us, if we can, because they're all suffering, all locked in samsara. And then we do the third step, the remedy. We do the visualization, the actual kind of remedy. The visualization of Bodhisattva, and the purifying the saying of the mantra, and the purifying of the seeds. And then fourth, the Vajrasattva Rinpoche says the most important is the resolve, the decision to change. Make new decisions. I will not this, I will not kill, I will not lie, I will not badmouth, I will not that. Making decisions according to our capacity. Because the intention to do something, the very meaning of karma, the word, and the intention to do something or not do something, we know is the main cause of doing it. Am I walking out the door? We think, oh yeah, your legs do it. Excuse me, my mind does it. If my mind is sitting here thinking, I'm going to sit in a chair, and then my legs pick me up, I'd better be surprised, wouldn't I? So the legs are just the servants of my mind. So if my legs walk out the door, we can deduce that my thought said, I will walk out the door. It's kind of obvious. And this is karma. The mind runs the show, so we don't realise it. So the intention to change is the major step. Digging these new grooves in our mind. Programming ourselves for the future. That's what we're trying to do. So, let's do it. So first let's just get our bodies right. Go through the main points. The classic sitting position, according to the text, is found by the great yogis to be the most conducive to the mind to get more subtle, which it has to do eventually. The best, of course, the legs, is to be in full lotus position. As His Holiness and all the great yogis say, to do the practices, the most advanced practices in completion stage Tantra, we need to get the mind to a quite subtle level. We need to be in that position. There's something about the way the energies are aligned. But of course, most of us maybe can't. So we sit with one leg up on the other side. Can't do that, ordinary. Can't do cross-legged. Can't do that, sit in a chair. Can't do that, stand on your head. Do whatever you can do. Deep practice. But if we're sitting, so the first one is the legs. If we're sitting in a chair, then we sit upright. Don't slump into the back if you can. Have your feet firmly planted on the ground. In fact, hold your body up. That's important. The body slumps when it's leaning against something. It shouldn't be slumped. Helps the energies flow more freely. The subtler physical energies and then the mind, which is intimately connected with those physical energies. The third one is the back. The spine, they say. Think of it like an arrow. Coccyx, the head of the arrow pointing directly into the earth. And then they say the shoulders, square but relaxed. And then just to add to this, I think it's important to think of your whole body, think of your spine, think of your skeleton. I like to think of it as hanging on a hanger. Completely straight, isn't it? Ramrod straight, all the bones. But the flesh and the soft bits hanging on the bones, really relaxed. It's a good combination. Upright, but relaxed. And the head, big deal. The head's a big deal. Chin tucked in. Head slightly forward. Or the hands first, okay? The hands, classic sitting, the Mudra of Meditation. Gesture is the hands left underneath, right on top. Thumbs touching, forming a triangle. And years ago I heard, I don't know what the source is, that these two thumbs is related to some subtle channels in there related to body teacher. So they're touching or something auspicious. I don't know much more about it. But you see some yogis with their hands like this, with their hands like this, as you wish. To the head. Slightly forward, not thrust back. Chin tucked in. And the jaw relaxed, and the lips apart slightly, and the tip of the tongue resting behind the top teeth, just near the palate. Feels unnatural, but apparently it stops you from having to dribble when you meditate a lot. Very practical. Breathe through your nose. Then the eyes, all the great yogis say you should have them open, because when you meditate in a day, the light can go in, which helps the mind stay sharp, which is crucial. But most of us may be distracted, so have them closed. And have your eyes looking down beneath your eyelids, as if you're looking along your nose towards the ground. So this is the position. So mentally note each bit, and then forget about it. Settle into it, very unselfconsciously. Because remember, your body doesn't meditate, your mind does. So for 2 quality minutes, let's just focus 100% our attention on the sensation of the air at your nostrils. Just pay attention to just that. Deep breath, all the way in, all the way out, but not forced, not loud, shouldn't hear it. deep breath in and out, just focus the mind. Focus the mind on the breath. Steady it. Feel the breath all the way down your abdomen, going all the way in, all the way out. Just focus on the nostrils. So now with this focused mind, let's do this series of thoughts and imagining this, visualizing, using our creative imagination basically, and basically using our thoughts. So, first step, regret. So first we think actions, use our bodies to harm others. So the first one, the most intense, would be killing. So we think any actions I've done in this life that I can think of, I remember, and of course all the ones I can't remember, but taking the life of sentient beings. So that might be a fetus, that might be the rats, the mice, the mosquitoes, the flies, the fish, our little doggy boggy, even though we meant well. Fleas, the ticks, all these creatures that we feel are kind of, disturbing our peace, harming our animals, harming us. We feel we have no choice. We've assumed there's been no choice, so we kill them out of our ignorance and our attachment to freedom from lice and freedom from rats because of our aversion to them. So in other words, actions motivated by delusion. That's what qualifies them as a negative action. Becomes ours. So we think, if we can, I regret having done any one of these actions, having harmed all of these sentient beings. And why do I regret? Because those actions, naturally when I did them, planted seeds in my mind. I left impressions in my mind. I programmed my mind. And those seeds are getting bigger and bigger, will grow eventually as many fruits. As my suffering in the lower realm, as my tendency to keep doing it, as an experience similar to it, getting killed, getting sick, dying young, or an environmental result, that the very external world itself, which ought to nourish me, actually harms me. Polluted water, food. So I know I don't want this suffering. I don't want those consequences. Therefore, I will go from the depths of my heart. Any action I've ever done, using my body to kill a sentient being, this life and all my countless past lives. Especially as animals, we've harmed trillions of sentient beings. We spend our lives as animals harming others out of massive fear and aggression and attachment. So many seeds in our mind. No way do I want them to ripen in the future. Therefore, I regret them from the depths of my heart. my actions with my body, of taking things that are not given, taking the ungiven as long as it is. Maybe this life not so much, but maybe you think about it, not giving back those things we borrowed, taking the flowers in someone's garden, even mutilating things like this, cheating on our taxes. Maybe these days, taking from the internet, more subtle. Taking the ungiven, easy enough to work that out. So the ones we can remember, maybe we don't like to think about it, like we sneak around it thinking, well, it's not really taken. So be very clear with ourselves. And then, of course, infinite past lives. Again, especially as animals, taking all the time, stealing naturally because of the masses of attachment. All these countless seeds I've planted in my mind, motivated by my own attachment, my own craving. So these seeds in the mind that can only ripen as my suffering. The really serious result, go wrong. The tendency to keep stealing. The experience of being stolen from, of being poor, of never making ends meet, never getting enough. The poverty-stricken environment. I don't want this. No way. And therefore I regret these actions that I don't want for people suffering, and secret suffering. I know now by looking at my own suffering, not getting credit, people taking, not repaying their debts, never having enough, worried about it, always feeling poor, all of this. I know this is painful. I don't want it again. I regret stealing on myself, sick of suffering. And the third one we do with our bodies, the main one, we can think of others like torturing and beating, that's not mentioned here, but we can imagine that. But the sexual misconduct, misusing our bodies to harm others, maybe we don't do the most, we might be running around raping too many people, cheating on many partners, to think about, And look at the one especially of cheating, the suffering of this relationships never last. This is like next life, future suffering, we experience. Relationships don't last, people cheat on us, there's no trust. It's very painful, we know that. Well, on suffering causes some extreme sexual misconduct. Imagine being born one of those little creatures under the earth that just pops out about 1 million babies a minute. It wouldn't be fun. Or being born one of those monkeys, totally addicted to sex from the time they're born. They hop out of the womb and then they jump on their mummy, jump on their daddy, jump on their grandpa. Can you imagine that suffering? Being overwhelmed by the craving of it, it's just like a nightmare, the mind possessed. That suffering. Don't want that suffering. Exhausting. Therefore I regret anything I've ever done since the beginning of time to harm sentient beings with my body on the basis of attachment to sex. Really takes me. Then we have the actions of our speech, which maybe as us humans, with our clever minds and our fancy speech, do so much of. The lying, saying things that are not true. I deeply regret these since the beginning of time, because I don't want the suffering. There's no way I want to be lied to by others, cheated on, and especially not trusted. You're speaking the truth, but no one believes you. You know how horrible that is. That's from past life. The confusion that comes as a result of this. The environmental results. Nothing grows, no peaceful places, much fear and paranoia. Living in an environment like that, with speech, lying speech, regret and regrets in my heart, because I don't want the future suffering. Harsh speech, clear, this one. Living always in the result of this, always surrounded by violence, paranoia, again, guilty fear, no pleasant places, nothing grows properly, environmental result. Always hearing harsh words, being abused by others. We know that's not about them. I don't want that suffering. Not to mention lower wrongs. I regret anything I've ever done in this way with my speech, sentient beings, since the beginning of time. Rabbiting on about nothing. Idle talk, they politely call it. Rabbiting on about nothing. This compulsive, uncontrolled, attachment-driven need to say whatever crazy thoughts pop up in our minds. So exhausting. All this. It seems so harmless. It destroys us, ruins our own mind, harms others, distresses others, causes confusion. I don't want the tendency to keep doing this. I do not want to have the other end of this, and one of the karmic consequences is that no one pays any attention to me, because my words have no value. You know how painful that is. That's from past idle talk. Again, environmentally, nothing pleasant, nowhere nice to go, nothing grows properly. Things to fear. I regret any of this harm I've done to others in this way with my speech since the beginning of time, because I do not want the suffering results. And then all the negative talk about people behind their backs, one of our worst ones. We do it every single day, almost thinking it's virtuous. In the safety of our friends at home, talking about others, putting them down, finding fault. One of the worst. Karmic consequences, disharmony, schisms, division in families, break up in relationships, break up in organizations, like a nightmare. Every level of the practice of Pratimoksha level, this one, Buddha exhorts us not to do it. Bodhisattva level, one of the major vows is not to say bad things about people. A major Tantric vow, not to speak bad things about our Vajrasattva. One of the worst actions we do. Causes so much suffering. No way do I want that kind of suffering. I regret this kind of thing done with my speech to harm sentient beings since the beginning of time. And the last 3 in the list of 10 is the mind. Just the beginning of working on the grosser levels of the 3 main delusions: attachment, aversion, ignorance. So the grosser level of attachment is this really intense craving, so distressing. Deeply regret this, dominating my mind. I don't want to be dominated by this terrible dissatisfaction, this constant, like a junkie craving. The grossest level. No way do I want that. Don't want to be surrounded by this kind of thing. Poverty, ugly environment. I regret craving since the beginning of time. Because I don't want the future suffering, not to mention lower realms. Ill will, this heavy, heavy duty extension of anger, never stopping thinking about it, can't let it go, and wanting the person to suffer. Hideous, like a nightmare, torture. We're suffering from this, being dominated by this kind of mind, like a nightmare, surrounded by violence and paranoia and things to fear. Nothing worse, not to mention lower realms. I do not want that suffering, absolutely. So I regret, in the depths of my heart, since beginning this time, this heavy level of anger, ill will, wanting others to suffer. We see in our own lives the hurt we've got because we've been hurt by others, and when we're thinking about it, we're so terrified when we think we want them to suffer. Look at what causes most people to harm others is this. They're like a nightmare in the mind. Deeply regret from the depths of our heart, because I don't want this suffering. Ignorance, the grossest level of this root delusion, this deep fundamentalism, narrow-mindedness, very fixed mind, racist, sexist, fundamentalist individuation, eye for an eye, this kind of thing. Terrifying. Absolutely regret this from the depths of my heart. Don't want to be dominated by this, surrounded by awful things, ignorance, suffering, gross environment. I regret since the beginning of this time, on my sake, because I'm sick of suffering. So, of course, added to this, if we've taken vows, if we've got our patimoksha vows, individual liberation vows, the 5 lay vows, for example, or for monks and nuns, that's the patimoksha. Those vows we knelt in front of one of our teachers and vowed not to kill, not to lie, not to steal, not to indulge in sexual misconduct, and not to tap alcohol, all of these 5. Then we must have broken this. So the breaking of the vow makes it extra more powerful. If the keeping virtue within the context of vow is infinitely more powerful, then breaking a vow makes it more powerful. On top of the natural, as they call it, the natural negativity. So deeply regretting this, breaking our word of honour. And then the Bodhisattva vows, the 18, I think, isn't it? Root Bodhisattva vows, and the 46 secondary vows. And then the 14 root Tantric vows, and the 8 and the 6 and the 3 secondary vows, and the various other commitments, like the token and initiation, all these words of honour. These things we pledged to our lamas to do, like we signed a contract, So to break it, quite heavy. So we regret all of this. in the depths of our hearts. Because we don't want the karmic consequences of the natural results, and we also don't want the karmic consequences of being not close to the Lama, to the Buddha, to lose our Dharma. We don't want that. No way. So I regret. Not just this life, but even the obstacles to our practice in this life is because of past life broken down. So regret in the depths of our heart since the beginning of time. Because I don't want to be that. For my sake. So who can we turn to? Where's the doctor? He can give us the medicines, the techniques, the methods that we can use so we can purify this. Well, we have the Buddha. Above our heads, imagine the Buddha in the Bodhisattva aspect, not in the monk aspect. Radiant light body, white light body. He's sitting on a white lotus. On the lotus is a sun disk and a moon disk representing wisdom and compassion. You kind of can't see those. And then on this he's sitting in the Bodhisattva aspect, which is like the Indian royal aspect, very gorgeous, made of light in these silken clothes, sitting in full lotus position, right leg in front of the left. Everything's dazzling, gorgeous light. He's so handsome, so beautiful, in the prime of his youth, about 16-year-old, they say, above our heads. And his left hand is in his lap, holding a bell, representing the wisdom that realizes emptiness. And the right hand at his heart, holding a Vajra, or a Dorje, representing the Tantra, representing bliss, and generally it representing compassion. And the union of these two, the non-duality of these two, the union of these two, that's enlightenment. He represents that. Space, totally gorgeous, radiant, light, blissful. Sweet eyes, sweet mouth. And if we have a Lama, a spiritual teacher, a guru, it is their mind. We think it is their mind manifesting as Vajrasattva for my benefit. The Lama is the Buddha is the Lama. Inseparable. His hair, the Indian style, as you see in the picture, held up in a top knot. Decorated with gorgeous jewels, and then the rest of his hair down his back, every hair individual, clear, crystal clear. And on the front of his head, sort of, around the head, is this crown, like a tiara really, quite pointed. And decorated beautifully in Indian style jewellery, throat, upper arms, wrists, ankles, feet. Everything's made of light. Utterly gorgeous. Makes us blissful. Vajrasattva. So we're just kind of feeling at this here, the first step in reliance. There's two parts. This first step in reliance is refuge in Buddha. So just feel delighted. I think it's refuge in a spontaneous way. Delighted to have found a doctor. These methods we can use to help purify our minds. How fantastic, how fortunate. Now the second part of reliance, we need suffering sentient beings now, because now we're trying to cultivate compassion. First step is like compassion for ourselves, based on renunciation, on the understanding of karma, exhausted from the suffering, so therefore regret. And now we regret for the sake of others. We harmed sentient beings, the countless numbers we've harmed. Because of our self-centeredness, because of our arrogance, because of our attachment, our hurt, our anger, our fear. So we harm others. Countless sentient beings. And then of course those who harm us. And as soon as we remember one of the causes for their harming me is my harming them in the past, then straight away it makes it more easy to have compassion for them as well. Because they're going to suffer in the future because of the harm they did to me. So just like the compassion of a mother and a junkie kid. Everybody else hates him. her heart breaks because she sees he's harming himself. That's here, the compassion for those who harm us, or who harm others for that matter. For all sentient beings, the harmers and the harmed, we're all in the same boat, changing roles, life after life. If I don't help them, who will? It's my job. I must purify myself for their sake. Then I become a Buddha, then I can help them. And if I don't go do it, who will? Now the third step, the remedy. We take the remedy. So first we, as they call it, invite all the wisdom beings to come and absorb into our visualization. So we think at the brow of Vajrasattva, above our heads, there's a white Om, which represents enlightened body. At his throat, a red R, representing enlightened speech. At his heart, a blue Hung, representing enlightened mind. So imagine now, from this Hung, light goes out to all the 10 directions. North, south, east, west, the cardinal directions, and up and down. That's 10. Everywhere. The light goes out and hooks the body, the energy of the enlightened energy of the body, speech and mind of all the Buddhas, all the Vajrasattvas throughout the universe. Trillions and trillions, imagine. Hooks the energy of their enlightened being and brings all this light back, their enlightened energy back with this light. It comes back and absorbs back into the heart of Lama Vajrasattva. And he becomes even more radiant, more marvellous. And now the manifestation of all enlightened beings in the world. So now, he very compassionately, happily, wanting only to help us, sends from his heart a powerful hose of like white nectar, liquid, like a powerful hose that arcs around and enters into our crown, forcefully entering us, forcing out through the lower orifices of the body. Imagine all the imprints, first of all the imprints of all the harm we've ever done with our bodies since the beginning of time, driven out by this powerful white liquid energy, so forcefully, like one of those really powerful hoses that just whooshes everything away, out to the lower parts of our body like silky liquid, disappearing into space, not one atom left. We imagine this, want this. As we say the mantra 3 times. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Memprayata Sawa Kalma Sutsame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramami Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Memprayata Sawa Karma Sutsame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramami Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Memprayata Sawa Karma Sutsame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramami Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe. Imagine not one atom left of all this negativity ever created with our bodies. Gone, gone. Disappeared into space. Full of this amazing blissful nectar. Now Lama Vajrasattva very happily this time again sends this nectar from his heart that arcs around with hose of nectar, enters our crown, fills us, and this time forces up to the top parts of our body. All the imprints of all the harm we've ever done since giving us time to all sentient beings with our speech. And it forces out to the top part of our body like filthy liquid and disappears into space. It's like Lama says, Yeshu said, you know, when you turn the tap on in the sink, all the junk in the glass, he said, comes to the surface, doesn't it? And kind of goes up and out. Think like that. So delightful, all this rubbish of our speech. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Memprayata Sawakama Sutsame Ticham Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajramami Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Memprayata Sawakama Sutsame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramami Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Memprayata Sawakama Sutsame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramami Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Not one atom disappeared into space. All the negativity of speech, full of this blissful happening. Now the mind, more subtle, so Lama Vajrasattva sends light from his heart that arcs around, imagine, and enters your crown, and instantly, right there. So Lama Yeshe says, just as you turn on a light in the room, the darkness is dispelled right there. Same here. Instantly, the darkness of all the delusions gone. And that means the cause of why we even harm others, and of course the cause, therefore, of our suffering, our pain, our neuroses, our madness, and all the things we do wrong. And therefore the cause of samsara. So cut all this, the motor. The root delusion in this hierarchy of delusions, the root delusion, ignorance, that clings to the intrinsic me, utterly, primordially, that informs then all the others, gives rise to the attachment to get what the I wants, the aversion and panic stations when it doesn't, all the harm we do as a result, all the paranoia, all the rage, all the pride, the arrogance, the low self-esteem, the depression, the fears, the anxiety, the worries, all of this instantly dispelled by this radiant light from our Lama's heart, filling us. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Memprayata Sawakama Sutsame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramami Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Memprayata Sarva Kama Sutsame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramami Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Memprayata Sarva Kama Sutsame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramami Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe So now this busy kind of visualization of removing, I think now we've just removed all the, what they call the obstacles to liberation. So this, we get out of samsara, By now we're out of samsara. But we can do more. We can remove all the obstacles to our omniscience, where we practice bodhicitta in combination with emptiness, and it makes it even more profound, more amazing, more marvelous, removing the obstacles to our becoming a Buddha and be able to manifest in trillions of forms throughout universes for sentient beings. So we remove these obstacles to omniscience. So now we have this busy visualization of imagining the nectar coming from the heart of the lama. It all goes down, all comes up, and the light at the same time. All these three together. You can imagine it. Removing even these subtlest things to our omniscience, to our Buddhahood. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Diro Me Bhava Sutrokayo Me Bhava Sukokayo Me Bhava Anorakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayasa Sarva Kama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Puruhung Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Bhadramami Mutsa Bhadrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Diro Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Sukokayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayasa Sarva Kama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Puruhung Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Bhadramami Mutsa Bhadrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Diro Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Sukokayo Me Bhava Anorakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayasa Sarva Kama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Bhadramami Mutsa Bhadrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Diro Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Sukokayo Me Bhava Anorakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayasa Sarva Kama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Kuruhung Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Bhadramami Mutsa Bhadrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe. And now the fourth step, most important, is one of those things, the determination to change, resolve, determination to make changes. So if we've taken vows, then we have no choice because they're lifelong. We must reiterate those. This is why we must do this practice every day. This is why, as Lama Zopa said, we are insane not to do this practice every day. Plain foolish. We know to grow anything, we have to do it every day. To become a musician, to eat well, to get fit, you must do it every day. It's logical. Same here. To be new grooves deep in our mind. Change our habits. So if we've taken vows, we must reiterate, I will never break my Bodhisattva vows. I will never break my Bodhisattva vows. I will never break my Tantric vows and commitments and word vows. Must think this. Anyway. So then, if we haven't, then we think what we can accomplish. If we think we're ready to, I will never kill, I will never steal, I will never lie, I will never harm sentient beings with my body and speech, amazing. Maybe you haven't taken the vows yet, the 5 lay vows, which is a summary of those 10, if you like, 1 of speech and 4 of the body. If you can, then fine. If not, then just make some decisions. Well, maybe I won't kill for a month, or I'll give it a try, or I won't kill for the next 3 days, or I might think about not lying. Whatever we feel sincerely, because we are the boss and we have to make the decisions, not just cross our fingers. Decisions about what to achieve. We know this in ordinary life. You don't make decisions, you don't do anything. It doesn't just happen. It's naive. So here, say, in relation to the 10 non-virtues, if you can remember them, or even some of them, make decisions. And then when it comes to your mind, the 3 gross ones, but not only that, like your depression, your anger, your neuroses, your anxiety. Maybe you can't say, I'll never do that again. Don't lie to yourself, as Rinpoche says. Make some decisions. I'll watch it. I won't indulge in the jealousy. I'll tell myself to shut up. I'll try not to be. Whatever you feel, you can decide yourself to help change your habits. So talk to yourself for a couple of minutes. Make some decisions. Action. So now I think Lama Vajrasattva are very happy, delighted. He dissolves into white light, comes through our crown, and then just merges with our body, speech and mind, merges with us. Just think like this. Vajrasattva's body, speech, mind, Lama's body, speech, mind, my body, speech, mind, as Swami Rishi would put it, union, oneness, and just bliss out for a couple of minutes. No thoughts, just this blissful, radiant, clear kind of energy, thinking, this is me, just for a couple of minutes to finish. So now we think, we dedicate, we delight so far what we've done today, this morning, all these mental things we've done, all these intentions, all these motivations, all these thoughts, all these seeds we've planted. How marvellous. This amazing process of these four foreign powers. So many good seeds planted. We delight. May they ripen. May we nourish these seeds from this moment with our virtue, with our efforts, so that it does ripen, they ripen eventually, and exactly as we made, as we thought, as a Buddha, then I'm qualified to help people. No matter how long it takes. Doesn't matter. And now we think of lunch differently, not just attachment. Think of it as empty, no inherent nature, like prison. Nothing from its own side. We can change our attitude towards it. We can call it something different. Made up by our minds, created by our minds. It is empty and empty of anything there that doesn't come from the mind. So we think it's turned into juice's nectar. We again, like before, blessing with the energy of all the holy beings, all melts into it. There's a radiant oceans of nectar. Think now, I just want a little bowl, you know. We think, what we're going to do with it? We're going to offer it. The most marvellous, the most meritorious. Most virtues. So we think all the Gurus, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Satyas, Dharma, all the suffering sentient beings, arrayed in space, and then we instantly turn them into the most potent object of our merit, Guru deity. So we think of Vajrasattva as our Lama, trillions of Vajrasattvas, and then we see them all experiencing the joy of receiving it, as we happily offer. Lama Sangye Lama Che Desu Lama Gita Che Tungi Devo Lama Che Lama Namla Che Kabu. When we enjoy it, eat because we're going to get fat and healthy so we can become a Buddha to benefit sentient beings. So lunch, and then 2, you have your discussion groups. So, you know, you people, hop into little groups of 3 or 4 people and then rip apart anything we've talked about today. Take 1 or 2 pieces and go into it deeper. Unpack it, analyse it, check it out, look at it, question it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch.